the Disney classic, The Rescuers. It's been a long time since I had to talk about another Disney classic movie that's been around since the early 70s. It's been so long since I had to go back to the early 70s of the last Disney movie I talked about was basically The Aristocats. And that was already been like months ago. It's time for me to go back to talking about some good old classic animated movies that used to be good old classic hand-drawn instead of 3D. This review will not take too long apparently. The basic story is plain and simple. There's this little girl named Penny, who's been captured by Medusa, a mean, wicked woman who's holding her captive. And she leaves a bottle and leaving for help. And the best part from this movie is the opening. This film came out in 1977, which you already know that. But there are famous voice actors. Here's to play our main characters. There's Bernard and Bianca. Not to mention, and I actually like this opening. It's very touching and sweet, and it's one of the greatest parts in movie history time. It's basically about two mice. Our two heroic mice. He's Bianca, the kind-hearted mouse, and Bernard, the one that used to be a janitor. And it's their job to rescue the little girl, named Penny. They end up at the orphanage and meet an old cat that has a mustache named Rufus. Gus. And the scene is also very touching and sweet. So yeah, Penny's an orphan and she wants to be with a family member until Medusa took her away and they had to go to her evil shop called Medusa's Pawn Shop, where she works at. Fun fact, actually both become like related to Cruella de Vil, and whoa, there she is. Glad they changed that. That's from the 101 Dalmatians movie. And I always find her appearance a bit freaky looking. Medusa, it looks a bit, like I just said, and freaky looking, especially her eyes. Anyhow, our heroes catch on board, but it's almost impossible to get in her ride. Whew, and I thought Cruella de Vil's ride was scary. And yeah, they're going to the Devil's Bayou, which is obviously in a swamp. And we also get to one of my other favorite characters in this movie, Orville, of the seagull, which later years will get replaced by a different seagull. Oh, and the Rescuers Down Under, It'll be voiced by John Candy, Wilbur. Our heroes end up in the swamp until a bit of them set out the fireworks of young Will Penny runs away again. And her assistant, Snoops. I gotta admit, the special effects look pretty darn cool. Luckily, Bernard used the umbrella to make their soft landing. Fortunately, Penny gets captured by Brutus and Nero, Medusa's pets of alligators. And we also get introduced by Emerald, a cute little dragonfly that also has a mustache. She did try to escape, but seemed to fail. And Medusa's plan is to make sure she puts Penny down in the well. Want to get the devil's eye. Yep, all she wants is the devil's eye, aka the jewel. Our heroes get spotted by Brutus and Nero because of Bianca's perfume. I gotta admit, this scene is very entertaining, seeing our heroes get inside an organ player. Well, Brutus and Nero try to eat them. Also, I like the scene where Sedusa gets scared by the mice, because she's a lady. And like any cliches, ladies are afraid of rodents. I find this scene hilarious. Anyways, after that scene, we get to a very touching moment of Penny wants to go to her real parents. And Medusa gets to talk to Penny. And that was very hard for her to say that to a young girl. And we get to another touching scene. It's very sweet and heartwarmingly emotional. She finally meets Bianca and Bernard. Also, they explain the entire plan for like a couple of minutes. It's a trap. Brutus Nero, and find a way to distract Medusa and Snoops. Yep, they explain everything for like a whole minute. So they had to pad this movie somehow. Anyhow, they get even rude. The Dragonfly to get help from the others. Anyhow, she forces Penny to go down the hole again, and our heroes will try their best to get the Devil's Eye, but it was almost impossible to get to it because of a big, huge sinkhole in the middle. It was going to be easy for our heroes to get it out, because inside a skull. So Penny has no choice but to use the sword to get the jewel out. They barely make it out alive, and Sedusa finally got her jewel. Oh, and she ain't sharing. For even Rude, he had a difficult time getting to them, with bats chasing them, and finally get to them at last. And we get to the epic final battle we want. The animals both join the battle and take down Sedusa once and for all. The chase is on, and it's pretty exciting. They make their heroic escape and leaving Sedusa to her own demise. And got back to New York City, and Penny gets adopted in the end. And that was The Rescuers, the very first one from 1977, and I love it. The animation's good, voice acting's perfect, storyline is plain and simple. Rescue the girl and make sure she gets adopted by parents while they have one big huge adventure of a lifetime. Many kids will enjoy watching this movie and its sequel, which I'll get to pretty soon. So I love the characters. I love how there's like emotional songs in it. It's every children's dream come true. So it's a very emotional film. You might find this film very intensely funny, quite fun, and quite interesting for lots of children and ages. Like any Disney classics, animation looks pretty well done. And not to mention, there is a bit of a back window of a woman and naked while they're flying, part New York City, which they cut out on DVD. Because Disney does some things I weren't proud of. Last time I talked about I did talk about Brave Toaster, not to mention it did show about woman's, breast showing, and only appear on the VHS tape. But anyways, I give The Rescuers from 1997 and an 8 out of 10 from its great huge success, and it'll still be memorable to this very day, and everybody will talk about this movie for a very long time. into reviews to other ones. I'll see you then when I talk about another Disney classic movie in the near future. Goodbye, everybody.